Hey y'all, and welcome back to the channel for another conversation. So if you're new here, welcome. My name's Kennedy. Every week I'm going to be releasing some sort of video, some sort of topic of conversation that's intended to just get you thinking. I want to stir up your gifts. I want to stir up the way that you're living, the way that you think, and really get you on a path where you're living in a purposeful way and also in a way that is really pleasing to God and to Christ, if that is what your hope and your aim is. So if that sounds like you're in the right place. And if you're not sure, stick around and let's talk a little bit, because today's topic of conversation around fasting, around prayer, I'm going to tell y'all exactly why these two things for me help to really just snatch me out of whatever it is that I might be caught up in. So any type of spiritual warfare that I might be encountering, anything that I'm dealing with just emotionally. So when I'm in my feelings, fasting and prayer helps to pull me out of that. And when I'm struggling particularly with just insecurity or any of these thoughts and imaginations that I know don't belong to me, these are two of the weapons that I use to combat any of that foolishness that happens in my mind. Because sometimes it's not foolishness that other people send in to us, it's the foolishness that we create in our own minds, because we don't believe we have the power to cast out our own thoughts and imaginations. I digress. So that's what we're talking about today, is fasting and prayer. And I will tell y'all exactly why we're talking about this week. I had to use these weapons, and I use these on a regular basis. If y'all listened to my last video, I shared with you the encounter with God that really shifted things for me in my life. So definitely tune into that to get more of the details around the encounter. But I talked in that video about fasting and about prayer and about how those were in the instructions that God gave me when I asked him for direction, when I was asking him about how to really shift my life from living lukewarm, kind of in this in-between, like, I love you, God, I love you, Jesus, but at the same time, like, I still want to be relatable. I still want to go out where I want to. I still want to drink whatever I want to. I was in that in-between kind of lifestyle, and I was fed up with it. I was tired of it. And so I went to God and asked him, so what does it look like for me to start to really live the way you want me to live? And he gave me prayer and fasting as a response to that prayer. So that's what we're going to talk about. I had to pull out that prayer and fasting. I pray daily. I read the Bible daily. Fasting is something that I do, not necessarily daily, but I'll do it sometimes a few days out of the week. I'll do it sometimes weekly. Sometimes it could be, the cadence changes with fasting, but it's something that is necessary when I get to a place, especially for me, where I notice that I'm out of whack, when I notice that emotionally, I don't seem stable. I seem really short. I seem really snippy. Maybe even like my attitude is it's just whenever I'm nasty or any of that type of stuff, like with Martin, my husband, for those that are new, anytime that I notice some of those changes and how I'm operating and in my character, that's one indicator that I know I need to go back to one of the best weapons that I know there is, and that's fasting and prayer. So this week I noticed some of those things in myself early in the week. So I don't know how I started off with a nasty attitude to start the week and to start the day on Monday, but that's what I did. And so by the end of the day, I had that conversation and I knew, okay, sis, you gotta set some of this stuff aside. I had to have a real talk conversation and say, you gotta get yourself together. And so by Tuesday of this week, I was sitting in this same room. This is our office in our house. And I'm sitting in this same room talking to God. And I'm just like, Lord, I really sense that I'm a little frustrated. Like, I'm tired. I might be a few different things, but either way, I know that the way that I've been operating, the way that I've been talking to Martin, the way that I've been wearing this frown on my face, like, how you just looking stank all day? Like, all those types of things I'm doing throughout the day. And I just said, God, I know that this is not pleasing. This is not why you woke me up today. This is not the type of way that I want to start the week. And so by Tuesday, because of all of these things, I knew that I needed to take that day to pray and to fast. And so in the last video, I told you guys this, but I'll repeat it briefly here, that fasting for me and fasting in general is defined as really turning down your plate. So not having any food. So that means for whatever time period that you dedicate to your fasting, that means you're not eating anything. There's a lot of modified kind of fasting out there in terms of I only eat vegetables versus this or that. The true definition of fasting is going without food. So you're not having any food. You can have water, but the true definition of fasting is going without food for a period of time, whatever that period is. So that's a little bit about fasting, but typically when I go to pray and fast, I go in with an intention. And I recognized towards the beginning of this week that some of those emotions that I was navigating on Monday included what I recognized by the end of the day was that this wasn't necessarily just a fatigue or me being tired, but I was carrying the weight of what I felt were unmet expectations. And so that was definitely something that I came in on Tuesday for the fast and for prayer. I came into that day on Tuesday with that in mind, knowing that I feel like I've been holding on to some expectations that nobody else set for me, but I set for me. God didn't set these for me. I set these for me. And so I'm walking around disappointed because God didn't meet X expectation, or that I didn't meet an expectation when, first of all, I don't even know if that was a part of God's plan. So the unmet expectations, I realized was a big thing that I was carrying and dealing with on Monday. So I bring that in as one example of something that I come into a fast thinking about. I think about, what is it that I've been carrying? What is it that I've been dealing with? What have I been struggling with? Like, there have been fasts that I've done in the past, you all, where I've come in with an intention specifically for dealing with temptation. So if some of y'all are listening to this and you're in a place where temptation has really been tough for you, like you've really been trying to stay on the straight and narrow, you've tried to leave my man alone, but for whatever reason, like you keep getting pulled back and forth into like this lusting and into having sex with him and doing whatever it might be. It might be masturbation for you or pornography, like whatever the form of temptation might be on that side. Like, that's something that you can bring to the table. You can bring that to God and you can say, well, Lord, I've never fasted before, but this is going to be something that I do because I need to focus. Fasting allows you to not only focus, but it allows you to be filled. So first is focus. The second thing is that it allows you to be filled, even though we're going without food, right? That's the crazy thing about fasting. You're going without food, physical food, but at the same time, you're being filled up, you're being fueled with spiritual food. So the nourishment of the wisdom of God, God's revelation, strength, any and everything that you're coming to God for, that's what you're being fed. You're not having regular food that's here to just temporarily fill you, but you're going to the source, which is God in this case, to be filled for a longer time, for that eternal kind of fill. So I wanted to point that out too, because that can be something that holds a lot of people back when it comes to, I haven't fasted before, is this thought of you're going to be hungry, you're not going to be able to push through it, it's too long, whatever the things are that maybe you've heard or maybe that you even told yourself are reasons why you shouldn't do it. Don't listen, sis. Like, don't listen. Don't allow those things to hinder you from really getting filled up. Because when it comes to temptation, like we were just talking about, if it comes to like maybe you're just struggling with insecurity, you could be just trying to make a decision, right? You're trying to decide, should I leave my job? Should I take this job? It could be a number of things. Maybe you're trying to figure out if this friendship or a particular relationship is still for you. Wherever you might be, it could be a decision, temptation, any and everything in between. You can bring that to the table, literally, just like you would sit down, like you prepare the table whenever you're about to have a meal. That's the same way that we can come to God when we are struggling, when we're tempted, when we're broken, when all hell is breaking loose in our life. We can literally bring it to the table. In the same way that we set the table with food before dinner, we can set the table before God in fasting. So we can bring all of our requests to God and say, you know what, Lord, this is an area of my life that I'm struggling in. I need help in the area of temptation. Like I need to let this dude go. Like I'm struggling to break some of these soul ties. Could you help me with this? I'm gonna put this on the table. Lord, I'm trying to make a decision. Should I stay at this company? Should I leave it? Should I take this job? Should I not? It could be a decision that you're making. Put it on the table. So just literally imagine yourself in the same way that you get your food ready. You're doing the same thing when you go and you decide, I'm going to take today to fast. I'm going to intentionally choose to turn down my plate. And instead of setting the table with food that I can eat, I'm going to set the table with all the things that I need for God to take, all the things that I want to lay down, all of the intentions for this fast. Because one thing that I wasn't doing early on when it came to fasting, I wasn't coming in with these intentions. I wasn't setting the table. So I was coming into the fast really thinking that this was more about God than it was about me. And let me clarify that. I used to come into the fast thinking that this was something that I was supposed to do, right? Because it's something that I grew up hearing in church. It's something that the church might be doing at the time. So I'm just supposed to participate. And if I participate, God is supposed to show up and come through for me. Absolutely not. Fasting is not for God. Fasting is for you. Fasting is for me. So when we come and we set the table, when we give God these things, when we put all of this stuff out, lay it all out, God is not interested in eating any of the things that we're putting on the table. We are coming, putting things on the table and asking God to feed us, to take those things and fill us with something different, something better, something new. And so if you're going to the table and you're being filled, then who is it really for? It's for us. He wants you to live in that posture. He wants you to utilize prayer and fasting because it is a weapon. It's something that allows us to really put away all the distractions, to really set that time aside, to set our table, to send up any intentions, to send up any problems or any things that we're excited about. Like you can bring whatever to the table. God's looking for us to just spend intentional time with him. And so fasting is one of the things that we can do to really take time away from the meals that we eat every day, taking those pockets of time throughout the day and replacing them with time with God. And so that's the thing. God is not here to say, you fasted this week, so you get a gold star. You get everything that you prayed for. That's not how this is. Fasting is not a manipulation tool. Fasting is literally preventative care for believers. So if we think about, and this is something that God showed to me earlier this week, if we think about how the doctor's office works, right? I want you to think about this with me. Think about the doctor. We don't call the doctor and set an appointment. We get to the appointment and the doctor is saying, well, we've been expecting you to come in. We're so glad that you're here. We really need you to help us. That's not how the response is when we get to the doctor and we set the appointment. So we need to think about the same thing when we think about prayer and fasting. We're not calling God in this moment of fasting. We're not saying, God, I'm coming to the table to fast today. We're not calling God so that he can then benefit from us. We're going to the doctor in order for them to help us, in order for them to assist us with whatever symptoms we got going on, any sickness, any disease, dis-ease in the mind, dis-ease in the physical body, any of that type of stuff. We go to the doctor expecting them to be able to help us through that, to prevent some of those things. So preventative care, we're going to them for treatment, we're going to them for advice. In the same way, we're going to God when we use prayer and fasting. Think about fasting as one of those preventative care methods that we have access to as believers, as God's daughters, as God's sons. We have access to the ultimate caregiver, the number one physician. We have access to him directly. And so whatever it is that we are dealing with, any of the symptoms, so I was telling y'all about some of my symptoms this week. Stank attitude, really short-tempered, impatient, all those those are symptoms of a deeper thing. And so by the time I get to Tuesday this week and I choose to go to the great physician, which is God, I go to the great physician, and then God is able to take all the symptoms that I'm reporting. I'm saying, God, this is how I've been really snippy with Martin. I've not been feeling confident about this. I don't think that this deal is going to come through. I need to work on my belief system. I need to get all the symptoms. I bring them to God in the same way that I would bring my symptoms to a doctor. Not for the doctor to ask me how I can help them, but for the doctor to share advice, for God to share advice with us, for God to give us guidance and revelation, and to ultimately give us treatment, to give us the cure, right? So I want to encourage you that if you are in that place and you feel like you're just dealing with all of these different things and you don't know where to really bring that, you don't know where to put some of that frustration, you don't know where to put some of your desires that you don't understand where they came from, some of your temptation, any of the curious thoughts that you have, maybe it's unbelief or doubt. Like, those are the types of symptoms, those are the things that we can take to God, and we can utilize prayer and fasting as that method of preventative care. One of the things that we underutilize is the power of prayer and fasting, and how it really can be used as preventative care for our temptation, preventative care for our unbelief. So when we are feeling doubtful, I can come to God as my physician, as my great physician, and say, God, I am really not feeling secure about this opportunity that's on the table. I don't feel unqualified. I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to misrepresent my house and my family. When I take those unbelieving thoughts, when I take those lies to God, He can then reveal to me what the truth is about who I am. He can then tell me what qualifies me when I go to the Word, when I pray, when I'm not distracted by all the other things that I might be normally doing. During that time of fasting, I've set time aside to just spend time with God, to get revelation, to take something and bring something to the table and say, God, let's talk about this. Let's deal with this. Let's dive deeper into this. It's the same way that we go to the table when we sit down with our friends and with our family. And when we sit around that food and we have that deep conversation, imagine that same type of opportunity, that same connection and relationship, but with God when we are praying and fasting. It's a conversation with God, and it's an opportunity to bring whatever we have to the table, knowing that God can take whatever we have at that table and fill you with whatever it is that you may need. If it's strength, if it is encouragement, if it's discipline, if it's strategy, that's the stuff that we can be filled with when we come to the table with God. There's a lot of tables to sit at. There's a lot of food that we could be eating, but I would challenge you, if you haven't dived into my God, oh Rabbi, if you have not checked out, if you have not tried, there we go, to fast, if you have not leaned into what that is, the time between this video and next week's video, I want to challenge you to really think about what are some things in my life that I've been carrying that I want to bring to the table with God. What are some things that I've been struggling with on my own that I haven't been able to find an answer for, that I haven't been able to forgive myself for, whatever it may be? What do you think about what you want to put on the table? And the second thing I would want you to think about is the day, that's number one, and then the time of day. So a time period within your day that you can turn down your plate. You can decide, you can be intentional about turning down your plate. So not having any food, drinking water, and using the time that you would normally consume food to bring whatever those things are that you're carrying, to bring those things to the table with God and have that conversation with Him. I'm challenging you to just find a window within your day. So if it's from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., maybe you do like a little half day fast. Maybe it is the back end of your day. Maybe you say from 4 o'clock on to the time that I go to sleep, I'm going to be fasting during that time. Make sure that this isn't just you missing a meal and that you just go throughout your day doing the same thing. But remember to think about this like you've got a scheduled dinner date. Okay, you come into the table, you're getting all your stuff prepared. You're thinking about what it is that you want from this time. Think about your intention, right? So the things that you're bringing to the table, what is it that you need from God? Because when we go to fast, just like when we go to eat, we're expecting when we go sit down at a restaurant to have somebody put something on our table within at least 20 minutes, 25 minutes, or it's going to be some problems. It's going to be some furniture moving, right? Bring it back is stupid. It's going to be some furniture moving if there's not any food put on the table. And so come with the same expectation that you do when you go to the doctor, right? Expect that when you go in and you share the things that you need help with, share your symptoms, that you're going to receive the advice. You're going to receive the treatment or the cure that you came looking for. The same thing if you go to a restaurant that you love. And you sit down, you look at that menu and you look at the things that you want and you expect for them to bring you what you want. Sit down at the table with God during your time of prayer and fasting with intention, and just see how quickly all those symptoms will disappear. How quickly all of those symptoms you'll now be able to treat because of the strategy that God gives. All of the things that you brought to the table, you'll wake up and say, my nose ain't running no more. My attitude ain't stank no more. I feel light. I believe again. So I challenge you, take this between this video, next video, and choose a day. Choose a day. Ask God what it is that he might want you to focus on. If you can't think of anything, ask God, what do you want me to focus on? I want to fast. I want to sit at the table with you this week. What are some things that you want to talk about? What is it that I need to focus on during this fast? And I promise you he'll answer. So y'all let me know what happens over the next week. I'm excited. Shoot me a comment, send me a message, whatever way you need to get in touch with me to let me know. I'm excited to hear what comes from this, because prayer and fasting, the prayers of the righteous availeth much. Okay? But fasting is a weapon. Prayer and fasting are our weapons. So let's use them. Let's tap into them. I love y'all. I will see y'all next week.